We also have the Queen's Counsel selection panel comprised of the Attorney General, Ronald Brackett Newell, Queen's Counsel, the Director of Public Prosecution, Eugene Otunye, Queen's Counsel, and the Doyen of the Bar, Ariel Isaac, Queen's Counsel. So we're about to start.
Seven. Okay. Thanks.
On rise. All persons who have anything to go say before Excellency the Governor and the leadership, the Chief Justice of the Turks and Caicos Islands, draw near, give your attendance. God save the Queen. Please be seated.
Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel.
Morning.
Good morning. Please proceed to the well of the court where you will take your oath. Yes, sir. Madam Registrar. Madam Registrar. Please go to justice. Yes, sir. Go to justice. Mr. Smith, you may now make your declaration.
Thank you.
You may now make your declaration.
I, Oliver A. Smith, do sincerely promise and declare that I will well and truly serve and act to the Queen and all whom I may lawfully be called upon to serve in the office of one of Her Majesty's Counsel, learned in the law, according to the best of my skill and understanding.
Congratulations.
Thank you, His Excellency.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Oliver Smith,
Yes, my lady.
please step up. Mr. Oliver Smith, QC, Her Majesty, having been pleased to appoint you one of her Counsel of the Turks and Caicos Islands, learned in the law, you will now take your seat within the bar accordingly.
Thank you, my lady.
Within the bar.
Thanks. There's someone in the back there. Thanks.
Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel.
Sure.
I want to be rich because I'm a poor man. Go by the rich.
I, David James Cadman, do sincerely promise and declare that I will well and truly serve Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and all whom I may lawfully be called upon to serve in the office of one of Her Majesty's counsel learned in the law according to the best of my skill and understanding. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Mr. David Cadman, QC, Her Majesty, having been pleased to appoint you one of her Counsel of the Turks and Caicos Islands, learned in the law, you will take your seat within the bar accordingly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I left my program over there. Can you take a look at that?
Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel. We shall hear about your career and attainments. Today, Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel, makes history as the first member of the Turks and Caicos Islands criminal bar to take stock. An exceptional feat and well-deserved. Mr. Oliver Smith, QC, has had an impactful career, which deserves our commendation and the emulation of his peers. He was first called to the bar in 1984 in his native Jamaica. Shortly thereafter, he moved to New York in the United States of America and was called to the bar of New York State in 1987. The focus of his career has been criminal defense. Mr. Oliver Smith, QC, was called to the bar of the Turks and Caicos Islands in 2007 and has since then practiced in all the courts of these islands. Mr. Oliver Smith QC needs no introduction as he is well known, acclaimed, and respected as an attorney who has appeared in a number of local high-profile criminal matters. Mr. Oliver Smith QC is described as a defense attorney par excellence, well respected by his peers at the criminal bar for his depth of knowledge and superior advocacy skills, but also for his compassion, demonstrated in the part of his practice dedicated to pro bono causes. I asked a respected member of the bar to describe him in one word, and this is what he said: inspiring. Another had more words: smart and intelligent, passionate, committed to his clients and going the extra mile for them, compassionate. My acquaintance with Mr. Oliver Smith QC has been short, but no less impactful. So committed has he been to the judiciary's mission of providing access to quality justice that he has never turned down an opportunity to put his expertise and considerable experience to use in any initiative he has been called upon to be part of. He has, in this regard, expended considerable time and energy, undoubtedly at cost to his own practice, by serving on a number of committees. Mr. Smith QC is a member of the team that produced our new criminal procedure rules, which provide for effective case management towards the achievement of the overriding objective of trying cases justly. He currently serves on the Bail Bill Committee, which has produced a cabinet paper and is headed for the House of Assembly, where hopefully some order and certainty will be introduced to the grant and refusal of bail in these islands. Mr. Oliver Smith QC is also a very worthy representative of the bar at the Criminal Justice Stakeholders Group and is a member of its subcommittee on Her Majesty's Prison. It is having regard to his stature as an advocate, which is recognized by his peers, his achievements in criminal justice, which are celebrated by them, and his commitment to justice and judicial initiatives, that he became the only person to be nominated by the Chief Justice under Section 7 of the Supreme Court Appointment of Queen's Counsel Rules 2021 for recommendation for appointment as Queen's Counsel. I am quick to say that in spite of his nomination, Mr. Oliver Smith QC chose to submit an application in order to fulfill all that was required under Rule 10 of the said rules. Having done so, he also submitted himself to the interview, which is part of the application process. Mr. Oliver Smith QC is a man of many parts, a mentor to many young persons, an ardent football fan who, while carrying on his duties as an attorney, manages to find the time to coach football. He serves as a football administrator and is at present a member of the FIFA Appeals Committee, the CONCACAF Appeals Committee, and is chairman of the Caribbean Football Union. Mr. Oliver Smith QC is truly deserving of the recognition he receives today as Her Majesty's Counsel and will no doubt be a worthy member of the Turks and Caicos Islands in a bar. Congratulations, Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel.
Thank you.
Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel.
Hello.
I am going to describe your career and your attainments, Mr. Cadman QC. Mr. David Cadman QC, has acquitted himself well as an advocate who enjoys the esteem of his peers. He has, by his work, showed himself to be worthy of the honor that is bestowed on him today. Mr. Cadman, Queen's Counsel, was first called to the Bar of England and Wales in 1996. He cut his teeth as a lawyer, handling criminal cases at all levels, Magistrates Court, Crown Court, and Court of Appeal as both prosecutor and defense counsel. He also undertook a wide variety of civil and family cases, as well as coroner's inquests. Eventually, Mr. Cadman QC specialized in public law and family law cases. Mr. Cadman, Queen's Counsel, was called to the Bar of the Turks and Caicos Islands in July 2005 and worked at the law firm of Missick and Stanbrook, but returned to the United Kingdom the next year. In 2011, he moved permanently to the Turks and Caicos Islands and took up his position at Missick and Stanbrook as a senior associate attorney. In 2012, he became a founding partner of Griffiths and Partners and still is today. From that time to the present, Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel's practice has evolved into a wide array of civil litigation and dispute resolution. His expertise is reflected in the panoply of cases he has dealt with, including strata management and bylaws disputes, divorce and matrimonial causes, employment contracts and labor disputes, insurance matters, civil recovery proceedings, commercial disputes, judicial reviews, to name a few. Griffiths and Partners grew from a two-man firm of Mr. Griffiths, Queen's Counsel, and Mr. Cadman, Queen's Counsel, to the well-respected firm it is today. As a partner, Mr. Cadman, Queen's Counsel, has concerned himself with providing training for newly qualified attorneys and paralegals. Under his co-leadership, the law firm has provided employment, training, and sponsorship to a number of Turks and Caicos Islanders, law graduates, as well as unique training programs in England, which include a special dispensation from the Bar Council of England and Wales for practice experience for one islander. Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel, is a member of the Bar Association's Pro Bono Committee. He has also been committed to the cause of improved justice delivery and worked with the former Chief Justice Ramsey Hale to produce Practice Direction Number 1 of 2020, the Direction on Costs in Litigation. At present, he is serving as a member of the committee to produce Magistrates Court rules for the Turks and Caicos Islands. I asked another silk of his acquaintance to describe him in a few words. This is what he said: courteous, willing to help, a fine advocate, and a true gentleman. The inner bar of the Turks and Caicos Islands is the richer for his inclusion today. Congratulations to you, Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel.
Thank you, my lady.
Honorable Attorney General, shall we hear from you today?
Ladies, I want to be sure I have this right.
Justin.
I'm grateful, my lady. His Excellency, Governor, my Lord Justice Aziz, my Lady Justice Laban Jackson, my Lord Justice Simons. May it please the court, I'm happy to be here today to bring congratulations to the newest members of the inner bar in the persons of Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel, and Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel. It is a pleasure because these gentlemen, as has been described by my lady, are known by the members of the bar as being worthy for this esteemed elevation. And so there wasn't a question in terms of the appointment that they were worthy of the honor. But my lady, it is important to note that we are making history here once again in the Turks and Caicos Islands, because this is the first, these are the first appointments that are made under the new rules for the appointment of Queen's Counsel. It is no small accomplishment that although the convention is across the Commonwealth, the appointment of Silk is a sort of shrouded honor that is within the realm of the Chief Justice and the Governor. But you have chosen, my lady, to introduce a transparent process in these islands through the establishment of rules, which I think are rare even, even in the region. I think it was only recently introduced in some of our sister jurisdictions in the region, and there are many that don't have such rules. So it's yet another example of the groundbreaking work that you are doing in terms of reform in our jurisdiction. And it is important to take note of it because this helps with the development of our, not only the legal profession in our jurisdiction, but good governance across the Turks and Caicos Islands. And it, of course, promotes the rule of law. So these first Silks, being persons who unanimously are persons considered by their peers, members of the bar, as being deserving of this under this process, and especially given Mr. Smith QC's submission to the full process, notwithstanding his nomination, demonstrates that the rule of law is alive and well in these Turks and Caicos Islands. And it's also history making, as has been indicated, because we've had now the first Silk to be admitted from the criminal bar. And it's very important to note that because the profile of criminal activity and the criminal work in the islands is is recently come under a microscope because of the increase in unfortunate increase in criminal matters. And to have a member of the criminal bar recognized in this way is important. It is important because it's standard setting, and the description that has been given of Mr. Smith's career demonstrate that this is the kind of standard that should be attained by members of the criminal bar. And so it's very important. But likewise, it's very important, Mr. Cadman, elevation, because one of the things that the panel, as a member of the panel, kept in front of us in terms of deliberation is ensuring that persons that are elevated to Queen's Counsel are persons who can set the appropriate standard for other members of the bar. And it is a heavy burden and responsibility, but it is a necessary part of the role of being Queen's Counsel, of the elevation. So now both Mr. Smith QC and Mr. Cadman QC have a responsibility, more deliberate, intentional responsibility to other members of the bar to demonstrate before them exemplary behavior, the high standards of conduct, the deliberate attempts to ensure that there is a cordial relationship between the bar and the bench, and to help to train and develop young attorneys. And so it is noteworthy that in both Mr. Smith and Mr. Cadman's biographies, there is the element of training a young person. Mr. Smith in terms of the football, and Mr. Cadman in terms of the young attorneys that have gone through Griffiths and Partners. And noteworthy, of course, is the fact that in the Griffiths and Partners case, they have ensured that that training is also taken from outside of the island, so that those young attorneys have a breadth of experience and training. So that helps to develop our profession. So my lady, I am very pleased to be here today to join with the members of the panel and the judiciary and the entire bench in welcoming these two new Queen's Counsel, all well deserving. Thank you, my lady.
Thank you very much, Honorable Attorney General. Very well said indeed. May I call on the Director of Public Prosecutions to say a few words.
Thank you, my lady. Your Excellency, the Governor, my lords, justices, Aziz and Simmons, and my lady, Justice Levan Jackson. My lady, on behalf of my colleagues at the office of the DPP, I joined the bench, the bar. I joined friends and families to welcome to the TCI in a bar and to celebrate these two giants that have come up in the legal profession of Turks and Caicos Islands. And my lady, before I just say one or two words towards them and for their own hearing, I want to echo the same sentiment in terms of the historic nature of what we are doing today. The fact that the process has been rigorous, well set out, and a path has been laid. There is certainty, and the persons can know exactly what is required of them in aspiring to this height. It is also historic, my lady, that the Criminal Defense Bar has one of their own risen to this height. And it is very heartwarming for Turks and Caicos. My lady, if I may address my learned colleagues this morning, Mr. Oliver Smith, QC, and Mr. David James Cadman, QC. What I would say is that this is a great flight to a great height. And from the profiles this morning, milady, read on their behalf, it is obvious, and being a member of the selection panel as well, this attainment is well deserved. Milady, I want to say to them that we are all proud of them, and they should be proud of themselves. But I need to add that at this great height, my lady, the responsibilities are greater. Lady, I wish to remind them that at this pinnacle, the expectations are higher. And it is my confidence that they will rise up to the occasion, my lady, that they would at this height blossom, that they will at this height commit and dedicate their services as they had actually laid out during their interviews and in the submissions they made to the panel, and as read out this morning. Above all, my lady, I want to wish and pray for them that they will have the humility and courage, as the Attorney General has, Honorable Attorney General has indicated or alluded to continue their commitment to inspire, so that lawyers below them and our colleagues at the bar will aspire to the heights that they have found themselves. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of humility, and I know they will not disappoint. Milady, having said that, I congratulate them, and I say to Cadman, QC, and Oliver Smith, QC, well done, my brother says.
Thank you very much. DPP, yourself being a Queen's Counsel, very well said. Very well said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milady.
May I call upon the Doyen of the Bar, Mr. Ariel Missick, QC, to also make a few comments.
Thank you, my lady. Your Excellency, Justices of the Supreme Court, and other members of the bar present here, as well as members in the gallery. I would like to join my two colleagues, the Attorney General and the Director of Public Prosecution, in congratulating you, Oliver Smith, and you, David Cadman, on being appointed members of Her Majesty's Council, learned in the law. The reason why you've deserved this appointment has been expressed well by my lady, the Chief Justice, as well as my other colleagues, and I endorse them in the reasons for your appointment. This appointment is an important milestone in your professional career development. It signifies that the selection panel is acknowledging that you are now a leader in the field in which you practice. And as a leader, it means you possess and have the skill, experience, and expertise to handle complex and difficult cases. It also signifies that you bring to the profession, to the bar, and to the court a high level of honesty and integrity, which is an important element of leadership at the bar. As leaders, you are expected to work collaboratively with your colleagues, judges, and others involved in the administration of justice to ensure timely and effective justice. I have known both of you for a considerable number of years, and I particularly had the honor of being close to David Cadman and see him operate as a lawyer when he was an associate in my firm. And I've also had the opportunity of watching and observing you, Oliver, in your pursuit of justice at the criminal bar. And it is very fitting, as the Attorney General and the Director of Public Prosecution has said, that the criminal bar should now have a leader, and you represent that leader. I have every confidence that you will honor and respect and put into practice the attributes and continue to apply them that the selection panel saw in you when you were selected, or sorry, when you were recommended for this appointment by His Excellency the Governor. And so I join them, welcoming you to the inner bar and wish you great success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ariel Missing, King's Counsel. Very well said. May I now call on the President of the Bar Council to say a few words.
Thank you, my lady. Madam Chief Justice, and Your Excellency, the Governor. With your leave, I wish to adopt the protocols ably established by the Attorney General, the DPP, and Mr. Mizik QC. I am honored to be here today to bring congratulatory remarks on behalf of the Bar Council and the general membership of the Bar Association of the Turks and Caicos Islands on the formal appointment of two of our colleagues to the prestigious rank of Queen's Counsel here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. With both counsel being highly respected for their advocacy skills, integrity, and activity towards assisting with the development of law and legal practice within these islands, these appointments are to be regarded as appointments well-deserved. Mr. Oliver Smith QC repeatedly demonstrates his unwavering commitment to the progressive development of law and legal practice within these islands through his continuous and unselfish acceptance of requests by the Bar Council to appear and act on its behalf in various committees, and particularly those concerning criminal practice and the administration of criminal justice within the TCI, and occasionally in cases before the court in which the council has an interest. I can also attest to the fact that he is genuinely committed to the development and well-being of his peers and people in general. Junior members of the bar have commented with favor on their ability to refer to Mr. Smith QC with ease for guidance on matters related to criminal practice. His commitment to the development of people, and in particular young people, is currently affirmed by his eagerness to serve as a mentor to youth participating in this year's National Moot Court Program, a partnership between the Bar Association and the judiciary, targeting youth between the ages of 15 to 18 years throughout these islands. Mr. Cadman QC likewise continues to prove himself committed to the development of law and practice in these islands. He most recently served 2 terms as a member of the Bar Council, and during this period, Mr. Cadman QC was instrumental in the crafting of policies, position papers, and in the general provision of advice on matters pertinent to the work of the council, and in representing the interests of the Bar Association and towards the modernization of legal practice here in the PCI. Mr. Cadman QC continues to be instrumental to the work of the Bar Council and currently heads the work of the Bar Association's Pro Bono Committee, which is illustrative of his continued commitment to the advancement of justice on behalf of and amongst those who are vulnerable and in most need of benevolent legal assistance. My lady, Mr. Oliver Smith QC and Mr. David Cadman QC are both gentlemen held with high regard by their peers and throughout the local community. Elevation to the rank of Queen's Counsel is a public recognition by the Crown, the judiciary, and their peers. And today's ceremony represents the pinnacle of their careers. To become Queen's Counsel is to attain a mark of excellence, recognizing the depth of their expertise and the prestige which they bring to the legal profession, and in particular, their respective areas of practice. The path towards becoming Queen's Counsel, as demonstrated by the criteria set forth in the selection process introduced by your ladyship, is a virtuous and meticulously examined one, requiring not only competence in legal practice, but long-standing years of consistent merit in character, crafting for themselves reputation as advocates of the highest caliber. Today, Mr. Smith QC and Mr. Cadman QC formally join the ranks of those leaders of the profession who serve as role models for all lawyers and for those aspiring to become lawyers. I am confident that they will take this rank and its responsibility seriously and will remain committed to actively guiding and inspiring the generations of attorneys to come. On behalf of the Bar Association of the Turks and Caicos Islands, I extend sincere congratulations on their accomplishment. May God continue to bless them both, and best wishes are extended for their future. Thank you, Madam Chief Justice, for allowing me to bring these remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Selvin Hawkins, President of the Bar Council. Thank you, and very well said, sir. May I now respectfully call on His Excellency, the Governor of the Turks and Caicos Islands, His Excellency Nigel Dakin, CNG, to also give his remarks.
Well, your ladyship and your esteemed colleagues of the bench and the bar, I sit next to you as the representative of Her Majesty the Queen. It is today, the 4th of November 2021, in the 69th year of the reign of the second Queen Elizabeth, that we're gathered to admit Mr. Oliver Smith QC and Mr. David Cadman QC to the inner bar. 424 years ago, in 1597, the very first Queen's Counsel, Sir Francis Bacon, was appointed in the 64th year of the reign of the first Queen Elizabeth. Those present, physically and virtually, will be relieved to hear that time does not permit us to review over 400 years of history and the development of the role. But from the outset and to this day, it is the formal recognition of a person steeped in their legal craft. And as a result, the rank of Queen's Counsel is recognized and respected throughout the world as a mark of quality in legal practice. Days such as today in any profession are important. We would all do well, whatever our walk of life, whatever our role or profession, spending just a little more time than we do, celebrating sustained success rather than criticizing momentary failure. Over the last 2 years, I've seen far more here in TCI that I want to rejoice over with regard to people's achievements, or indeed their attempted achievements, than I would ever have wished to criticize. So let's make sure, if nothing else, Oliver Smith QC and David Cadman QC and their family, friends and colleagues leave these proceedings knowing how much we respect and rejoice in their achievement. The professional stories of, if I may, Oliver and David have been captured by your ladyship extremely well, so I shan't repeat them. But I will say to them, thank you. Thank you for being the people you are. Thank you for being the professionals you are. Thank you for upholding the very best traditions of your chosen calling. And thank you for being of a standard that those who selected you had no hesitation in doing so. You're becoming a QC, as those who preceded you did, not through any single act of brilliance, but far more importantly, and frankly far harder, through sustained and consistent approach to upholding the highest possible standards in an exacting profession. You pursued excellence, not just as a destination, but as a journey. And it seems to me today, we recognize that your journey has reached an extremely important waypoint, but a waypoint nonetheless. Let me, if I may, now turn my attention to our Chief Justice in her court. Your Ladyship, as others have said, today's ceremony is important in and of itself because the two Queen's Counsel we admit today are here because of a new process that you spearheaded and sits within a wider framework of modernising our judicial processes that I completely support. The appointments we celebrate were made through the implementation of the Supreme Court Appointment of Queen's Counsel rules. This removed the privately conducted selection process by which your predecessors received ad hoc applications, after which your learned predecessors may or may not have made a recommendation to the governor of the day for appointment, with the result that only a former Chief Justice would know definitively why or why not a recommendation was made. The new rules required Mr. Smith and Mr. Cadman to demonstrate their eligibility through codified criteria. The competencies they were required to demonstrate included being learned in the law, skilled in court advocacy, trusted by the bench, and service-oriented through the free sharing of their talent with their community and actively advancing their profession. The importance of these rules, which makes access to Queen's Counsel more transparent, can be seen by taking a short walk back into England's more recent history, where the system of appointment to Queen's Counsel by the Lord Chancellor after secret soundings with senior judges and others was scrapped just 17 years ago in 2004. The selection process in England was the subject of suspicion and perceived discrimination, crowned by a public statement of the then Commissioner for Judicial Appointments, Sir Colin Campbell, that the private sounding system was unacceptable. The Lord Chancellor even suspended the application process, and there was vigorous debate over whether Queen's Counsel should be abolished altogether. We know today which side of that debate prevailed, but it was a debate. Your Ladyship's proactivity has removed the chance for this kind of controversy in the TCI, and that all present, including myself, are grateful. The celebrants now before the court are the fruit of these new Queen's Counsel rules, referred to me by the Queen's Counsel selection panel, and I sincerely congratulate them for their demonstrated achievement, commitment to their profession and their service, which we recognise today. So on that, Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel, and Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel, on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen, through my own office, a very warm welcome to a very well-deserved place at the Inner Bar.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you very much for your kind words. Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel. Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel. I join with His Excellency the Governor, other members of the Queen's Counsel selection panel, and all persons present here and virtually to congratulate you. Today, your service in the law is being formally recognized by the Crown, the bench, and your colleagues at the bar. The Supreme Court's appointment of Queen's Counsel Rules 2021, under which you were recommended for appointment, require that a nominee or applicant for appointment demonstrate a high level of advocacy, be learned in the law, be skilled and analytical in their presentations to the court, and be worthy of the confidence and trust of the judiciary and colleagues at the bar. They are also expected to have put their learning and experience to the defense of the poor and defenseless, and also that they have the ability and the willingness to devote themselves to the advancement of the administration of justice in these islands. Having regard to the material you submitted under Rule 10 of the Supreme Court, Appointment of Queen's Counsel Rules 2021, and your interactions with the Queen's Counsel selection panel at your interviews, it comes as no surprise to me that you two very deserving gentlemen are the first to be appointed upon the recommendation of the panel set up under the rules. Your sterling advocacy skills, your contribution to the country's jurisprudence, your comportment and reputation at the bar, and your commitment to your work as advocates are well acknowledged and mark you out as professionals of the highest caliber. But apart from these, you have also stood shoulder to shoulder with the judiciary in the introduction and implementation of initiatives to improve the quality of and access to justice in these islands. Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel, you were on the technical team which drafted the criminal procedure rules and provided training to our bench, bar, and police on the intendment and use of these rules. Without hesitation, you accepted to be a member of the Bill Committee and thereby took up the mantle of working with others to provide a bail ordinance for these islands. You represent the private bar at the Criminal Justice Stakeholders Group meetings, and you bring to the deliberations of the group a much needed perspective of defense counsel. From the middle to the end of the year 2020, you wholeheartedly threw yourself into the work of a committee set up by the criminal justice stakeholders to provide a report on Her Majesty's prison. Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel, you have championed bench bar cooperation and have led by example. You have worked pro bono for the bar and for indigent persons. You are a credit to the legal profession, and I salute you this day. Mr. David Cadman, QC, you collaborated with the judiciary to produce a practice direction on cost in litigation. You have accepted the challenge to create a structured mechanism for pro bono work in these islands. Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel, you have recently accepted to work on the committee to produce rules for the Magistrates' Court. You have also become one of this country's first trained mediators. I salute you, Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel. At your respective interviews, you both demonstrated your understanding that recognition and honor carry responsibilities and burdens. Today, you have attained the stature of Her Majesty's Counsel in these islands. Understand that this honor is not lightly bestowed, and that it brings onerous burdens in its wake. Do accept that the QC letters behind your names elevate you to heights that you have perhaps not yet appreciated. Suddenly, you have become leaders in your profession. You will be called upon to make sacrifices, yes. And on occasion, to your own inconvenience, you will have to demonstrate the qualities of self-control and meekness. Practically, You have a responsibility to show proper respect to the bench at all times. The bench will expect you to lead by example through a continual pursuit of excellence in your advocacy on behalf of your clients and in advancing the administration of justice. Your colleagues at the bar will now look to you for guidance in all areas of legal practice in and out of the courtroom. You will set and indeed be the standard of how to treat colleagues at the bar. The public will suddenly see you in a new light and expect great things from you. Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel. Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel. Others have gone ahead of you and preserved decorum. You can do no less. In fact, you must aspire to do more. So, lift up the flag of integrity, trustworthiness, commitment to the court, your clients, and the Turks and Caicos Islands. Be untiring in your devotion and your continual service in the temple of justice. I congratulate you, illustrious gentlemen, for this very well-deserved elevation in your profession. And I look forward, as others will too, to continuing excellent outputs and competence from both of you. I thank you. And I thank you. Mr. Oliver A. Smith, Queen's Counsel, shall we hear from you, please?
Yes, my lady. Thank you very much. My lady, Excellency to the Governor, Justices of the Supreme Court. I would like to use this opportunity to reply to thank a few people who have played significant roles in my development in the course of my life. First, I'd like to thank my wife, a woman who is professionally showed with equal parts duty and humility, a fervent prayer warrior, whose prayers no doubt contributed to the genesis of this day. Thanks also to my mother, a woman of strength, of will, of purpose. Words cannot be properly described her strength, and whose guiding voice is omnipresent even when I try to ignore it. A woman who, as a young girl of 16, traveled from Balaclava, St. Elizabeth, to Trenchtown to stay with her mother. And there she met a man 5 years her senior, who had the wisdom to marry her. And I'd also like to thank that man, my father who I hardly knew, as he was an itinerant farm worker who went to Florida to pick apple and work on the fruit farms of Florida. In his own wisdom, he decided to skip his contract, became illegal in the United States, and was unable to return to Jamaica, and he died in his young 30s. And that was the reason why I hardly knew him. But from my father, I learned that the mere responsibility of taking care of your family, the value of hard work, and he taught me how to love from a distance. I'd like to thank my brothers and my only sister, as they were my first friends, and they believed in me even when I did not understand why they did. I'd like to thank my teachers and past schoolmates at Kingston College. My schoolmates were not judging me for introducing this naive youth from Waterhouse to things, the stuff, the ideas, familiar to them but novel to me. I especially like to thank my English teachers, the late Mrs. Riley, Mrs. Reed, and Mrs. Coke, for introducing me to books and the delicious filling feast that reading brings. I'd like to thank my classmates and from the faculty and from the law school, two of whom traveled from Jamaica to be here with me, and many of them logged on virtually. A group of individuals, each with their own idiosyncrasies, but collectively a motley crew overflowing perennial support. I'd like to thank my mentors, Richard Small in Jamaica, for his insistence that I use any free time I have to attend court. For it is there, he says, you will learn how to do things and how not to do things. I'd like to thank my late law partner in New York, Robert Dunn, who was critical and influential in the way I approached my case preparation. I'd like to thank Justice Yates in New York, who was a valued and readily sounding board as I navigated the maze that was the criminal justice system in New York. I'd also like to thank and recognize my colleagues at the bar, especially those at the criminal bar. For we both toil in an era of law that is obviously challenging. But even more than that is the contagious emotion it bleeds, leaving us usually drained, yet motivated for the next trial, the next opportunity to impact justice. And I'd like to thank those mentors here in the TCI who were not even aware they were mentoring me. And these are all the judges and the magistrates, setting a high bar and demanding more. I learned from each and every judge and magistrate before whom I appeared in the TCI. They all imparted the do's and don'ts. And I'd like to single out a few. I'd like to thank the former president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Motley, for his obvious legal wisdom doled out in sizable portions with gentle tones. I'd like to thank Justice Aziz for the fact that he was always ready to point out what's not done properly and what needed to be done, all offered with the sole intent to improve the process with the multiplier effect of improving counsel. And of course, I'd like to thank Magistrate Cadman, who usually sees both the forest and the trees, and with a tongue usually laden with wit and sarcasm, provided insights that have assisted me in my practice. I'd like to thank Clayton Green for giving me the initial opportunity to work here in the PCI, now my home. I'd like to thank Sonia Fulford, who gave me the opportunity to participate administratively with my first love, football. And very significantly, I'd like to issue a word of recognition to the Chief Justice for creating a clear and transparent path to the Queen's Counsel appointment where none previously existed. And for in such a short period of time, seeking to layer the legal landscape with the necessary infrastructure and fill in lacunas with the obvious benefit to all who operate in our legal system. And finally, I'd like to thank two sets of individuals. Firstly, the younger attorneys at the bar who have worked with me and assisted me during this my very circuitous journey at the bar. People like Dave Britton, the late Karen Playfair, Keith James, Kimon Tennant. These young attorneys have provided Herculean support in some of my most challenging matters and have labored often without the recognition they deserve. And finally, and I hope my all friends don't get jealous, I'd like to thank my friends and from Waterhouse, community where I spent a lot of my life, even when I'm not physically there. The ones who for different reasons are no longer there or here, and those who are still here and there. The ones who, when I passed common entrance examination for high school, gave me the nickname Professor or Prof. You know who you are. Thanks for believing in me and supporting me. Your pride in my achievements and constant encouragement were the crucial and fundamental parts of the engine that drove me to this day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliver Smith, Queen's Counsel. And thank you for taking us with you on the journey.
Thank you.
Mr. David James Cadman, Queen's Counsel, shall we hear from you also?
My lady, Madam Chief Justice, Your Excellency Governor, Justices of the Supreme Court, and members of the selection panel, and the President of the Bar Council, members of the Bar family and friends, may I firstly, my lady, take this opportunity to, on behalf of certainly my firm, is to welcome my lady as Chief Justice of these islands, as I think this is first ceremonial occasion that we have met in person since my lady came to the islands the early part of last year, at a time when the courts of these islands and the government were facing some of the greatest challenges that we have seen in modern times. Can I take also the opportunity to thank in particular the Registrar of the Supreme Court and all of the court staff, as well as the Attorney General's chambers and the government, in the way in which it has been possible for the administration of justice in these islands to continue, notwithstanding the immense challenges which have faced us all in practice. I think my last count was that the Attorney General's chambers have managed to produce something like 591 pages of regulations and laws on the subject of COVID, pandemics, and everything associated with social distancing, which we have all lived with in the intervening months. And the fact that the judiciary, the courts, the government, and the bar have, with grace, managed in the most civil of terms to maintain professionalism and a common purpose within the rule of law for the public welfare is, I think, a tribute to all who have participated in it and contributed. Secondly, may I take this opportunity to congratulate my learned friend, Mr. Oliver Smith, on his appointment today. I have seldom in these islands appeared, although occasionally in the criminal courts, but nevertheless, I am aware of the high regard and esteem professionally with which Mr. Smith is regarded, and I congratulate him on his appointment today. May I take this opportunity to give some thanks, in particular to family and friends. I'm very grateful to my parents and my brother John, who have both travelled from England for this ceremony today at not inconsiderable inconvenience to themselves and challenges which international travel currently provides. I'm immensely grateful to them and to all my family and friends around the world who have, since the announcement of my appointment, sent their good wishes and congratulations from the United States, Belgium, Russia, Hong Kong, the United Kingdom. There are many people to whom I'm very grateful for their best wishes. I'd like also to take this opportunity to record my gratitude to those who assisted me in my early legal practice, namely my pupil masters and mistress at Goldsmith Chambers and Bridewell Chambers in London, Dorian Day, Lawrence Suits, and Richard Buswell. I'm also very grateful to my chambers in Leeds, Park Square Chambers, with which I am associated as an associate member. I've been associated with the North Eastern Circuit of the Bar in England and chambers in Leeds in particular, since I was first invited to join chambers by Peter Collier, Queen's Counsel, later the Recorder of Leeds, to his chambers in 2003. I'd also like to thank in particular the partners and staff of Missick and Stanbrook, a firm in these islands with which I have twice been associated as an associate attorney, and in particular I express my gratitude to their senior partner, Ariel Missick, Queen's Counsel, who is here today. I would also like to thank in particular my partners and all the staff at Griffiths and Partners, both past and present, and including all of those who support me in my daily practice. First and foremost amongst them is my learned friend, Conrad Griffiths, Queen's Counsel, with whom I have known since 2005 and been in partnership since the beginning of 2012. It has been an honour and a privilege to have worked both with Mr. Griffiths and all of the staff at Griffiths and Partners, and I continue to express, perhaps not frequently enough, my gratitude to them for their forbearance and patience. Attorneys are not perhaps renowned for being the most patient of people to work for, but I hope their forbearance and understanding is always acknowledged by me, because without them, it is not possible for anyone to sustain a professional career over many years in the way in which it is necessary for the sake of our clients, judicial administration, the judiciary, and the administration of justice. I can take this opportunity, if I may, to mention two particular members of staff and associates on this occasion. One is to Devonte Smith, who is a young man, a Turks and Caicos Islander, who has worked with my firm since, I think, around the age of 16, and who has earlier this year been called to the Bar of England and Wales, and is soon, I hope, to be admitted as an attorney in these islands. His training is testament to the ongoing commitment of my firm and my partners to the training of islanders in legal practice in this jurisdiction. And I commend him on his recent call to the Bar of England and Wales. And finally, I wish to send best wishes to Lyndon Pratt, who's a member of the support staff, information technology, IT and technology staff, who works with our firm and who's very recently been in hospital. And I wish him all the very best on his recovery. My lady, I thank the court for this appointment and express my gratitude today. Thank you, my lady.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Cadman, Queen's Counsel. And now, there being no further business, this court will adjourn. May I, before we rise, invite all persons here present and all Queen's Counsel appearing remotely to join us outside for some refreshment, where you will have His Excellency the Governor and members of the Queen's Counsel selection panel with you. We are rising.
All rise. The Honorable Supreme Court has come to join Dr. P.M. Boys of the Chief Justice, God save the Queen.
Thank you, Aaron. That's very kind of you. Thank you.